everyone, and welcome to my first episode of my new podcast, On the Same Page, Lord Up with Friends. I am Paige, if it wasn't obvious enough, aka Pluto's Lair everywhere. I wanted to do a podcast again. It's been a while, and I couldn't think of a more perfect person to bring on for my first guest than one of my absolute best friends in the space. Mr. Power Rangers himself, if you couldn't tell from the background for those of you watching the vid. But yeah, Art, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell everyone they can find you, and then we'll just jump right into the episode.
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. I am the Power Rangers guy. Uh, I am Arc or Arclight Court. You can find me all over the internet at Arclight Court. That's ARCLIGHTCOURT. A lot of T's, I just realized. Not really, just two of them. But you can find me all over the internet at Arclight Court. I do Power Rangers TTRPG content creating, game designing, world building, lore writing. We are a lighthouse amongst the storms, and I am the beacon unto all beacons, or at least that's what I've been told.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think every time I join a friend's video, you're already in their Twitch chat. So I mean, just like Art's just
Yeah,
everywhere.
just reaching out, sharing the love, sharing the positivity. It's the best. My idea of the best way to be is to support your homies, because
Hmm.
homies support homies.
Yeah, obviously. But yeah, obviously me and you met through Initiative Order, through the Coyote and Crow one shot, which then led to Arkanites, which lasted almost 2 years. I feel like it was a
Yeah.
long ass fucking time. Um, but yeah, in general, just what got you into the space? How long have you like been playing tabletops, and it's like what led to you starting to dip your toe into like APs and stuff?
So I started playing TTRPGs almost 2 decades ago. I started playing with second edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons,
Hmm.
and it initially started with I got a couple of the core books from my uncle, who got them from his dad. Long connection of people. Uh, and I read them cover to cover, loved it. I love high fantasy kind of things. And so I was writing my own little adventures, made my own characters. Me and my cousins would kind of play.
Hmm.
And then it just continued kind of in the background of my life. Only played every once in a while. I did some play by post and like RP servers on like Tumblr for like X-Men and stuff like that.
Fucking
uh
Tumblr.
yeah, dated myself there. But I as far as role playing, like that's where a lot of it really kind of started, was doing
Hmm.
those like character play by post kind of things. um and then around 2017, I DM'd for the first time for my family, for my wife, my brothers and sisters, and even my dad, who used to play in the late 70s, early 80s, way back then. He joined in and played with us for the first time in decades in fifth edition. That led to meeting a bunch of really cool people on the internet, talking about D&D, talking about TTRPGs in general. And uh, one of the people that I met was through the Initiative Order. And I ran a Curse of Strahd one shot for them. And they were really good friends with Danny, Check for Traps,
Hmm.
Magic the Gathering. Uh, really good friends with Danny, who's the person who ran, and that, the Initiative Order was their thing. And they invited me to run a game on the Initiative Order. And I, at the time, was really invested and really interested in Masks, a new generation.
Yes.
And I wrote an entire series for that called Society of Sabers, which was like a crossover of Young Justice, the third season mixed with X-Men Evolution, and like the more nitty
Yes,
gritty,
yes.
dark teen hero stuff.
Hey, I'm
Um,
I'm starting an X-Men campaign soon. If you don't think X-Men Evolution shit's gonna be
oh, it's
prevalent.
so good, so good, especially when Apocalypse and Magneto bring the Four Horsemen, and we get
Yeah.
we get Polaris, we get Gambit. Oh, I love it. but that was 2021
Mm-hmm.
was my first actual like streamed actual play, and it was just a one shot at the time.
Yeah.
uh and from there, everybody who was involved with it loved it. The players that were there loved it. The people at the initiative order loved it. That I was running a bunch of community games in there, and I appeared in the Vossen miniseries. I appeared
Mm-hmm.
in the Fallout charity for St. Jude's, I think it was in 2022. Uh, that we did, and I played in there was another one. We had the Coyote and Crow one. Oh, and the Call of Cthulhu actual play
Mm-hmm.
that Danny ran on the channel for that was based off of Sleep Token.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And after all of that, the Power Rangers TTRPG was released. And I don't know if those of you watching the video can tell, I am a huge Power Rangers fan, have been my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I immediately pitched the idea of running a campaign on the initiative order for Power Rangers, and they approved it. We got the cast together, and we ran that for almost a year on the initiative order before they transitioned away from Twitch and doing actual plays,
Mm-hmm.
and we brought it over to my Twitch channel, and we kept going for like another 6 months after that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so 20 years TTRPGs, the last 3 or 4 as an actual like online streamed actual play stuff, and over the last 2 years got into content creating.
Yeah. I mean, our we I think we had like a few conversations during around the one shot for Coyote and Crow when we first met, and it was like 80% Power Rangers. So then
Yep.
Arkanites became a thing like right after, and we're like, oh yeah, this is dope.
This is absolutely happening. I
Because
think
I
that was,
think both of us got the system like immediately. Like, yeah, I
yeah,
need this.
that was one of the first like conversations that wasn't about the one shot that we had. Was the Power Rangers TTRPG is coming out, and this in the group message, and I think you had responded first with like, "Yeah, I'm interested in it," and I had responded, "I already bought 2 copies."
Yeah, I think you're one of the few friends that knows more about Power Rangers than me, but it's like your whole thing, so that's fine.
Yeah, I'm the Power Rangers guy, so I'm okay
I'm
with
still
that.
pretty sure there's a few seasons in the middle that I have not watched too. I'd really need to go back and do a full rewatch. I'm pretty sure some of the middle seasons I definitely missed.
There's I will always, for anyone who's watching who wants to get into Power Rangers, of course, watch Mighty Morphin. That is the first season of the American version of it, and
Hmm.
enjoy it, take it in, everything. If you're looking for deeper storytelling, like more less of a child's story of adventure and power and superheroes, and you're looking for like deep story, Power Rangers in Space, Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, um, Power Rangers Time Force, any of those three,
I lo-
highly
I
recommend.
I love In Space so much. I really need to rewatch it again. It's been so long. So I'm
I
so
did.
that's why I'm so the lad geeked about the space idea that you mentioned. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I can do some
Cosmic
stuff, but
Envoys.
that
Ooh,
it's gonna be
so
dope.
close to being ready. So close to being ready. It might even be ready by the time this goes up.
I mean,
Um,
yeah, it's been open about a month ish, so
oh yeah,
potentially.
it's definitely be ready by then.
Yeah. I think the plan is to pre-record these like the month before. So like I'll pre-record all August's now, and then September, the first Monday will probably be the time this one airs.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm sure you'll have a lot of shit that I mean you fucking are doing shit all the time. I'm sure you'll have so much more shit out. I just like started writing down my own schedule today, and it's fucking insane. I'm like, I need to talk to you about some shit after this, because there's some stuff on it. I just have a section where like half of the section is just arc, and it lists like all the different stuff we've talked about. So we need to talk.
Yes, absolutely. But
I
no,
get,
the uh if you're looking for more lighthearted stuff,
hmm
obviously you can go like Mystic Force, you can go
yeah, I think
Jungle
Mighty
Fury.
Morphin all the way through Zeo is pretty light still.
Yeah,
And then like even the newest seasons, Cosmic Fury was pretty.
yeah,
It was more like teen show type situation more than a Power Ranger show.
yeah.
You could tell Netflix was trying to make like a teen comedy.
They're like, we could still throw some action in there. We have to put just enough
Yeah.
so it's still Power Rangers.
Yeah. It was some. It was not my favorite, but it was something.
I liked it. I
I got yeah,
genuinely
I liked it too, but it definitely was different than some of the other stuff they've done for sure. I'm excited to
I
see what
think
they do with it in next. I know there's some rumblings about what they're doing going forward,
yeah.
but
I
we'll
think
see.
the reason why I enjoyed it, aside from it just being Power Rangers, and it's not even just a bias to it being Power
Mm.
Rangers, because a lot of seasons have their faults, a lot of Ranger designs or like backstories I
Oh,
didn't
I did not like the
100% agree
Zords. I
with.
did not like the Zords at all in Cosmic Fury. Not Hunter or even Dino Fury. Like they look like
Yeah.
fucking Legos. I couldn't do it.
But I think the reason why I enjoyed Cosmic Fury so much is as it being like the final season of that collective universe,
hmm
it's still in its own way paid homage to the roots of Power Rangers, which
Yeah,
is
I think it wrapped it
in-
all up pretty well.
inclusivity, friendship, save the world, make the right choices, not the easy ones. Like,
hmm
it brought everything back in that beautiful way.
Yeah, I think they did a good job to it with it because they did bring back Zed and they brought back Billy and they brought back Zordon, but I think they did it in a way where it didn't become the focus. Like they did really good with how they approached it.
Yeah,
Um, I think honestly, the towards the end of it, the focus was more on Amelia's story than anyone else, which made sense with her whole taking over the team and then finding out her heritage and stuff. So I think they did a good way to wrap up like the story of the show, but also like tying in all the Power Rangers lore because I know they're like pretty much uncharted waters now. They don't have source material anymore.
yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how they go forward with all that.
There's all sorts of talks all over the place. Of course, at the current time of us, recording this, there still hasn't been an official announcement for the next Power
Yeah.
Rangers season, but there are people who are afraid that it's completely gone, that this is the end, and
hmm
just accept it as it is. There are
Yeah.
other people who are still holding out strong, going with the information that we had learned. But I think the best part about there not being a definitive answer at this moment is it still leaves us the air and opportunity to explore so much more of the lore and of Power Rangers itself. Like, a lot of
Yeah.
people are now realizing, oh, the comic books are still going. A
Yeah.
lot of people thought that it ended.
Yeah, comic books are showing strong.
A lot of people thought it ended with Shattered Grid. No, it still
I mean,
carries on and is still
Isn't
going.
Amy Jo Johnson like very focused in the comic writing with stuff too? Like with,
No,
especially with Pink Ranger
she,
stuff
yeah.
specifically.
So Amy Jo Johnson just did it just wrapped up her series
I should
in
say
the comic book.
for people who are Power Ranger nerds, that's the original Pink Ranger that every guy
Yes.
had a crush on growing up in the '90s.
Yeah,
That's who we're
should
talking about.
should loop that in. So her series The Return
mm,
just finished, and it even that left on a cliffhanger, where a new ranger was introduced that is the returning power of a ranger who's no longer around from the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
hmm
So even that closed out with an opening to continue.
Yeah.
There's a new 8-part series that comes out in September or October, that each issue is written by a different Power Rangers actor, like David Yost, the original Blue Ranger. Uh, he has a whole issue that he wrote that's going to be included in it.
Yeah,
Rock,
I feel like him, Amy, and Walter have really come out with, especially with the 30th anniversary or whatever it was. Like the three of
yeah,
them have become so much more involved in Power Ranger lore again, which is nice to see.
and it's refreshing. It's beautiful, and also they know that they're the core fans and the people who do truly and deeply love Power Rangers have grown up just like
hmm
they did. And
Yeah,
so a lot
exactly.
of the stuff that they're making now that has to do with Power Rangers, they're making it with these fans in mind while
I mean,
still
yeah,
maintaining
they're
all of
like
the kid stuff.
they're like the legacy that we have left of it, because we lost the actress who played Trini. We lost Jason David Frank, and we don't mention Jason.
Yeah,
So they're pretty much what we have left of that original like start of everything. But
I don't even want to get
we could probably
started
end
on
up
that
just, yeah, we could probably just
one.
go for Power Rangers for forever. But change the topic slightly. So like, yeah, you've run Mask, you've played in Boston and Cthulhu, you've done a shit ton of Power Rangers. Is there any systems besides, like, I know you're making systems and stuff? Is there any systems that you haven't played yet that you either want to play in or run coming forward that you are like on your radar?
So I have danced around World of Darkness for
Mm.
quite some time. I've watched a bunch of actual plays. I've read the books. I
The World of Darkness would be so up your alley. It's so you coded.
I've made characters and hunters, vampires, werewolves, changeling. I've run the gambit of making characters and reading the book. I haven't run the system. I haven't played yet.
Mm.
That's something I'm super interested in. Uh, but also there are systems that exist that I have yet to see any like actual plays of uh anybody ever really talk about. One in
Mm-hmm.
particular is called Ars Magica. It's in its seventh edition.
I don't think I've
Uh,
heard of that one.
it is a it is a system where essentially you as a player are playing three characters at once. You play a mage, which is your more powerful out of the three, access to the arcane weave and can conjure and create magics and do all of these kind of things. Their right hand, which depending on the type of mage you are, can be a cleric of some kind, can be a knight, can be a assassin or something
Mm-hmm.
of that nature, but their right hand. And then the third is I might be wrong on this, but it's like a goon or a gone or something like that. The spelling is different for me. Um, but that third character is essentially like the henchman, the the henchmen or
That's
followers or
interesting.
faithful or students of this mage.
So you're like kind of playing your own NPCs that are tied to your character. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, and the players at the table, no two people will play the same out of their three characters at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So your game master obviously is the game master over everything. One person at the table will be playing as their mage. Another
Mm-hmm.
person at the table will play as their handler. Another person will be playing as their goons or goons or whatever it is. And you rotate your position of power as you guys step back and forth between characters.
Gotcha.
Um, I think it's super interesting. I love player options. I love customization. I love world building. I love storytelling.
Oh,
So
yes.
I get to do all of that when I make my
Mm-hmm.
first character. And then the NPCs I wrote for that, I get to play them too.
No, I
I'm
love that.
super interested, want to try it out. Um, but nobody that I have talked to about this game had ever heard of it, had
I'll
ever
play.
had ever tried it,
I've always said that
anything.
my favorite part about tabletops is not actually playing. It's when I'm GMing, it's the world building. When I'm playing, it's character creation. Because I just
Yes,
love diving into all of that shit more than like the RP and stuff, and the playing is fun, especially if you have a good group. But like I love to just like create that start of it. It's just so much fun to really dive into.
absolutely. And this, from everything I've read on this system, again, I was introduced to this system when I started writing my own systems,
Mm-hmm.
looking to see what has been done, what hasn't been done, kind of thing. And when I found it and started reading through it, I fell in love with it. And then I started reaching out to people and like, hey, have you ever heard of this? And everybody told me, nope, I have no idea what you're talking about.
I mean, to be fair, feel like the majority of the community, like, yeah, they'll like look at some indie stuff or World of Darkness stuff, but like the main focus is D&D and Pathfinder. Even with
Yeah.
people pulling away from it now, like it's still so much of the industry and so much of like actual plays and everything. It's really hard to find people who know a lot of the more out there systems.
Or are ready to step into something that is
Yeah, are really
wholly
willing to experiment.
different.
Yeah, because D&D's been around for so long, Pathfinder's been around for a decent bit that people are familiar enough with it so they feel more comfortable diving into those type of games.
Yeah, especially when you step away from mechanics that people are comfortable with. Like you
Hmm.
can do any of the Powered by Apocalypse games if you're playing with people who have played Masks or have played
Hmm.
Kids on Bikes or any of the other systems, because it makes sense. They
Yeah.
they understand those mechanics, easy to just jump over and do. When you go from, if you started with Kids on Bikes and then I tried to introduce you to Dungeons and Dragons and you've never played it before, you'd be like, well,
Yeah, that's the
it's
thing. A lot of you have to have very specific people to play those crunchier systems, especially if it's not something they're used to. Because a
yeah.
lot of people don't like to learn complicated systems like that or to dive really into that either. So there's probably a lot more systems out there that don't get looked at because of just how complex they are.
Mutants and Masterminds.
Yep, it's been on my list. Yep,
Sentinel
it's Sentinels
Sentinel
in there
Comics
too.
role-playing games.
Yep, I have plenty that are in my to run list that are like I'm gonna need a very select people to play these games that will actually dive into the hours of character building for these games.
That's why I ended up learning Masks when I did, because I
Hmm.
started with Sentinel Comics and I started with Mutants and Masterminds for superhero stuff.
Yeah.
And when I initially petitioned the Society of Sabers games, I wrote it for a Sentinel Comics role-playing game system. And the conversation was had of, well, not a lot of people know the system. I don't know if everybody has access to, the game itself or understand it. Have you tried Masks? And that was when I did a deep dive into that, like 18 hours the next day,
Hmm.
just to learn the whole system, learn how everything works. I was like, oh yeah, I can make this work with this too.
Yeah. I could run literally any Power by Apocalypse game almost off the dome, even if it's one I've not heard of. Like I've done that before. I've like picked up like a Monster Hearts. I played in it once, but like when I went to run it for that one shot I did, I glanced at the rules for like 2 seconds of how to, and didn't even look at the GM section because it was just general GM tips. Like, I got
just
this.
the just the little change in wording for what things were,
Yep,
and
it
that
was
was
just
it.
like, okay, how does strings work and sets moves? Cool, I got this, 100%. They're all the same pretty much. It's same with like Roll of Darkness and their dice pool system. Very simple to know. There's some more crunchiness to it, but it's not too bad.
Yeah.
Um, a lot. I feel like a lot of those systems that are kind of universal do make it easier to pick up, which is why people lean towards more towards those. Like I'm running Marvel Multiverse soon, and I know it's a little more crunchier, but I very hand specifically picked my group for that.
It's
So
so good. It's so good. I love it. And I love that the crit mechanic in it is rolling a 616.
yeah, I may have
It's so
bought
beautiful.
something at Gen Con.
I still have the prototype test books for
Yeah,
it here in my
I
office
did the
somewhere.
very, very, very first playtest of it, and it was so janky then, but it's improved so much.
I love it so
It's
much.
so good. I'm so excited to run it.
I love using that system to create villains also.
Oh yeah, because it's the same. It's the same as the heroes. I've already like,
Hmm.
I've started planning for the campaign, and it's been mostly just like writing out all the major villains and heroes, and then fan casting them to which versions of them I want them to be.
Yep.
Like I've already decided Johnny Storm's going to be Chris Evans, so
Best Johnny Storm. Best
Yep,
Johnny
he's not.
Storm.
There's gonna be no Cap in my road. Cap's gonna be Captain Carter. We're gonna Haley Atwell into my Avengers instead because I want Johnny Storm to be Chris Evans after recent stuff. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but I mean I'm pretty sure it's an open secret at this point, especially by the time this airs.
By the time this airs, I'm pretty sure people
Yeah, by the
know.
time this airs, if you haven't seen Deadpool and Wolverine, I don't feel bad about spoiling anything.
No.
Um, but yeah, it's been fun to kind of do it. I was really like to do a whole timeline, and I was looking at Marvel. I'm like, there's a lot of stuff. and Marvel to build out a whole fucking timeline. So I think it's just better for me to get the major players in the world and then just figure it out as we go.
Like I want to do Marvel 1602
Mm-hmm.
campaign with the Marvel TTRPG. Um, just because that timeline and that presentation of the
Mm-hmm.
heroes and their powers and everything, I fell in love with. It was beautiful. I loved every minute of it and was like, this, if I ever do a Marvel thing, this is how I'm doing it. 100%.
Just let me know.
I'm in.
I'm ready. I got both books. I will build a character tonight.
But yeah, I think back to the beginning, the to answer the question, World of Darkness, I've definitely danced around. I want to
Yeah.
try. I want
World of
to
Darkness is great.
actually play in, and then one that's way out into the ether, Ars Magica.
Mm-hmm. Even with as busy as we both are, if I have to run an offline World of Darkness game for you, I will do it. World of Darkness is so fucking good, and I've played it a few times. I ran a campaign of it before, and I'm running a campaign of it soon. So I love World of Darkness. I'm somehow going to try to mesh Hunter, Werewolf, and Vampire together in one game. We'll see how this goes. Because
Ooh,
I'm realizing werewolves are a lot higher level than everything else, but we'll make it work. We'll
yeah.
probably have to give the vampires a little extra kick to balance it out, but we'll figure it out.
Little extra kick for the vampires and a little bit extra gear for the hunters or contacts. One of the two for the hunters.
Yeah, well, they're all going to be hunters to start, and then we're going to jump forward, and they'll be either a werewolf or a vampire, and those they come back together. So it's going to be
Ah,
like they were a hunter group, they split off for some reason, they come back together half and half. So we'll see how it all goes
ooh.
together. It's gonna be a very political, very horror-esque game with what I got planned, so I'm really excited for it. But for some reason I've dipped into horror now lately, like my last few campaigns and then going forward it's all about horror game. I think even after these two coming up, I got Candela planned, so I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? It's
It's okay.
is it the trauma? Is that what it is?
It's okay. It's okay. Recently, at the time of this recording, I have bounced from Power Rangers to Pokemon to Digimon to we started building a comic book universe. There was a whole Beyblade conversation that we had. There's a racing game
So in other words,
conversation we had.
you're hanging out with Hama a lot. Got you.
No, this is in my own streams.
I
This is in
know.
my own content. It's just
No,
I
it makes
think
sense
it's the
though.
draw to the
The
nostalgia.
nostalgia is very strong. I feel like. I mean, I feel like that's a lot lately. The nostalgia is such a thing these last few years. There's rarely new content as much as recycled content. I feel like a lot lately in Hollywood and stuff.
Yeah. And I think that in itself lends to people looking for that same nostalgia, but not in the
Mm-hmm.
seeking money or seeking, any kind of notoriety out of it, but paying actual homage to it, paying
Mm-hmm.
actual like we're playing Power Rangers, but we are seeing Angel Grove in the modern day. We are interacting with
Yeah.
former Rangers and their lives that they've had since then. The Pokemon region that we made came from the idea of a storm that occurred when Lugia first reappeared, ended up over this region. And
Mm-hmm.
because Lugia wasn't there for that portion of the storm, it's been stuck over this region. And there are professors and other, gym leaders who are coming here trying to figure out how to fix it. So we're even with that Pokemon region that we made, it has homage to like Lieutenant Surge and Cynthia and Oak and Gary and everybody coming into this area like we saw when this storm first started, and we want to try and help you.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I'm now 36 years old. I haven't been the champion for
Yeah.
15
Ash isn't still
years.
10 years old in this in this
Yeah. No, time actually
that kid
passed.
traveled a lot within a year. Like fucking Christ.
It was like eight, 4 or 5 different continents, 9 different countries. Barely succeeded in his first goal 30 years later, but he's still 10.
Yep.
I don't know about this. I don't know.
Yeah, it's wild how they did all that. But yeah. But with that, we come to the first lore dump of the podcast. So, for this podcast, halfway through the episode, my guest gets to talk about any one subject that they want to just fixate on and explain to both me and the audience in a fun little conversation. So, Ark, what is the topic that you would want to lore dump about tonight?
Game designing and writing is I love it so much. Uh as many of us millennials who have discovered our identities much later in life, discovered more about ourselves
I don't know
and
what you're talking about, sir.
a, a great deal of us were in like the gifted and talented education, plan. We were all given like AP classes in our freshman year of high school or continued through high school. We all learned Cornell notes in junior high and never used them ever again. Uh, we're all very creative, very spark of imagination has not, and I don't believe will die in us. And a
Hmm.
lot of us did creative writing. Like that was our thing, our getaway, because we excelled in that because of who we were, not because of the test scores or how well our project performed or anything else. A lot of us excelled in creative writing because we it was where we got to present our truest creative points and succeed by being that and by doing that. And from there, going into tabletop role playing games, when you're looking at these systems and you're looking at how players create their characters or why they use the spells that they do or why certain dice are used for certain abilities or how combat works in them, we start turning gears in our own head of, wait, this would be really cool if, what if instead of fireball being like 5d6, what if it was 68? What if it was this instead of that? What if this worked in this way? And we start creating lore, we start creating this idea, this world off of small mechanics of a TTRPG. And then those small mechanics become this world, and then that world, now we go, okay, well, now magic works this way. How do I explain that? Oh, well, you have people who cast magic through their spirit, you have people who cast magic through their intelligence, you have people who are born with magic and it's just naturally flowing out of them. So how do I, okay, so we have our nature casters, we have our physical casters, we have our intelligence casters. And by the time you've gotten to this point in your idea, in your formation, you have already started creating your own TTRPG, creating your own game, creating your own system, creating your own world, your own lore, and it just snowballs and continues to grow and build from there. And I love it so much that I've written almost 15 different TTRPGs for very different niche things that I love, just because I looked at one mechanic from one game and said, you know what that would be really good for? My Hero Academia. This is how this will work.
First off, I didn't need to be called out like this. Like, sir, I didn't need to be this called out. What the fuck? Um, God damn.
But
See,
it's true.
yeah, I mean, I am writing a system right now, but I think the reason I haven't dove into writing as many as you because I GM so many more games than you do, even if you dive in more. So like I get so much of my writing and like, oh, but what if this one thing was in this world and affected everything, and then I GM a game about it. So I totally get that.
But even then,
I
you're
got a lot of stuff to reevaluate about myself after this, but
even then taking that one aspect from the game you're creating and you
hmm.
go, what if uh shits and giggles, what if Garfield the cat was an eldritch horror in my world?
Funny you say
um
that. He was one of the seven deadly sins in one of my campaigns.
See, so now because I'm working on this, but I need to know how players would respond to this. I need to know how the world would respond to something like this. So let
Mm-hmm.
me take this idea from the game I'm developing here and let me slot it in the easiest system that I can do it in, whether it be Call of Cthulhu
Mm-hmm.
or Vampire the Masquerade or D&D or Pathfinder, and have your players, okay, here's the guidelines of making your characters. It's modern day, da da da, magic works, the crossover of elves and orcs and dwarves and humans has been peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and make your characters. This is what is going to happen, and then we'll play through it. Then once you play through that, once you've run that in that system, you go back to your own and you now know how members of a thieves guild will respond to this. People who practice their religion trying to seal away these eldritch horrors, people who are completely mundane and had no idea of these things, now when they come face to face with it, this is how they would respond. And you can now add that layer or add that context to the world or game that you're creating. Just because you're writing a game or you're creating a game doesn't mean every other system sucks or that you can't play any other system. It All the other systems now become a tool. It becomes a new pen, a new piece of paper, a new sense of art that you can use to add to what you're creating and what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
The newest system that I've been working on for the last 2 weeks at the point of when we're recording this has been a racing TTRPG, like a street racing TTRPG. That whole idea came from I was watching Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift one night. And I was like, it'd be really cool, a street racing TTRPG. I'm pretty sure they're out there, but you could like customize the cars. You can
Let's just say Tokyo Drift, very underrated part of the series. It gets a
absolutely
lot of shit. Gets
120%.
a lot of
No,
shit because no Vin Diesel, but I mean,
no.
it has a
In
little
my
Bow Wow
opinion,
though, so.
it's the number 3 movie in the Fast and the Furious movies because it's in the top 3 of Fast and the Furious movies.
My two favorite movies do not have Vin Diesel, now that I'm thinking about it. Because my first favorite is Too Fast, Too Furious, which is
Yep.
Paul Walker and the guy with the big mouth,
Tyrese.
Tyrese, yeah. It's the two of them. It's just Tyrese's introduction, and then
Mm-hmm.
Tokyo Drift's my second. Like I like.
Yeah. It's the third movie because it should be in your top 3 of Fast and the Furious movies.
Mm-hmm.
But watching that, and I am a big fan of magic. I'm a big fan of fantasy. I'm a big fan of, spirits and power, people having power that they didn't have previously. So when I was looking into, are there any street racing TTRPGs? There aren't. People are just saying use the vehicle system from GURPS or use this system's
Can we
vehicle,
talk about that though?
settings.
Vehicle systems and space settings I always found are so clunky in a lot of games that I've played. Like I did a Starfighter campaign and like I just improved it because the rules were so complicated to the point like it was a whole different game upon a game. Like there was no way to really run that. I felt it was so
Exactly.
much easier to just do a narrative like, hey, what do you guys want to do? Cool, we're gonna make these rolls. I'm gonna do some rolls what they want to do, and then just play off of it. It was so much easier to do it like that way than trying to figure out their mechanics. Like I feel like they go chase scenes and vehicle scenes and space scenes all go into so much more complicated like grid level war combat type
Yeah.
shit, and I'm like,
It becomes
I
more
don't.
of a war game than an
Yeah, I don't want to
actual
play this
like
shit. This is a whole different. This
RPG.
is a whole different thing. I don't want this in my games. Like, what is this?
So even with just this very niche idea
Mm-hmm.
came together was like, what what is the best way to do this? Because one thing I always want to include in all of my systems and all the things that I create is I want the players to feel like they genuinely have an option. They have a
Mm-hmm.
choice. They aren't forced or pigeonholed into, oh, you're playing a barbarian, strength needs to be your highest thing, and you need to use a two-handed weapon. No, 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 no. I can play a barbarian that only uses dex and wisdom. I've done it. I took him all the way to level 20. It's
Mm-hmm.
possible. Don't tell me what it has to be.
No, I
Let
love
your
that.
players build and create and do. So within the system, it came down to, okay, everybody's driving cars, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
How do we make it simple enough that all of the cars are the same, but each player gets the opportunity to adjust their car to their play style?
I mean, that made sense because even if you look at the Fast and the Furious movies, yeah, they're all professional drivers, but they all have their strengths. Like, but in Tyrese's character, is not his strengths not even fucking driving. Instead, he keeps running his mouth all the time and
Yeah.
gets them out of situations. Like,
And he's ready to do the thing that everyone else is thinking of doing but won't do.
yeah.
He'll punch the window out of the car in the police, lockup
Mm-hmm.
bay. He'll tell the mob boss your wife is hot. He'll look at the guy who's got the rat on his stomach getting ready to claw into his face and go, you put yourself there, I'm not getting involved.
Mm-hmm.
Was ready to make those decisions, but when he got behind the wheel, that reflected in his driving style. He would make the left turn where everyone else was second guessing it. He would hit the brakes, letting everyone else go past him when other people were thinking about doing it, but didn't do it. He built a ejecto seato in his car, and everyone else thought he was crazy for it, but it worked. He did the thing that everyone else was thinking, but didn't want to do, or know how to do, or in what way to present it,
Yeah.
making the cars, at least the framework of the cars, identical.
Mm-hmm.
They all start at a baseline. Now you as a driver, you as a character in this, you make the adjustments to the car. Do you want your tires bigger or smaller? Do you want your engine to have more horsepower, go faster, or do you want more torque? Do you want to be able to push or pull more weight or things? Do you want the frame of your car to be reinforced? It'll slow it down, but if you crash, you'll survive. Or do you want it lighter so you can go faster? Build your car around your playstyle or your character's lifestyle, playstyle, whatever it may
Mm-hmm.
be. I wanted that openness and creative outlet available for the players within that. While at the same time, the GM portion of this game has 15, 16 pages of already pre-made cars that you can slot in for races, for NPCs, for other people that are already pre-generated, and they could just go, okay, they want to do a sprint race. Cool. I'm going to grab two of the sprinter style cars. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
grab one drag style car, and I'm going to grab a car that's so reinforced it could like collide into other cars and take them out of the race. There are your four other racers that you guys are going against. And it's already pre-made. It's already put together. But if the GM wanted to, same system.
Mm-hmm.
Baseline car, what do you need it to do? Add this, add this, add this, add this. Boom, there you go.
No, that's dope though.
And that's why I love creating games.
No, I see why. I I love just writing everything in general, which is probably why I GM more than anything else. Is because I love to be in control of my world. I'm a little bit of a control freak, but also
Oh, you
just
don't
like
say.
shut up. I also just I don't know. I just love taking one concept and kind of running with it, and just being like, "Hey, what if this thing happened?" And then just kind of go from there. Because even like my game that where I'm building that you're going to be helping me with, once we get that campaign up, like it was just like, well, what if the world was divided by magic and not by race or culture or anything? What if it was just like different schools of magic, and how would that change how a whole world develops?
Yeah.
And just that one thought, I feel like I've gotten so much out of it already, and like
Yeah. And
such a rich
just
thing.
just that one thought led to the development of all of the different schools of magic.
Mm-hmm.
Then when we had the conversation of the different schools of magic, it was like, okay, how do these schools interact with each other?
Yeah.
Are they rivals? Do they agree with each other? Do they disagree with
Mhm.
each other? Do they try to disprove one another? How does that work? And then you built on that. And then it was, okay, well, we know these guys are clicked up over here. These guys could care less. This school of mages and seers literally tell everybody, you keep doing what you're doing, the world's going to explode. And nobody listens to them, but they're right.
Mhm.
Why is nobody listening to them? Then we dove deeper into all of these smaller, nuanced things to where now you have an entire game system. You have an entire, everything is already there. It's just now framing it correctly. And you have an entire TTRPG that
Yeah.
you've created from just that simple idea of what if instead of being separated by race or ethnicity, it's a magical creed, it's a magical
Mhm.
connection. Families of pyromancers now have a child who is born who has specialized in emoji based spell casting. And they all go, you're supposed to be doing fire magic. He goes, but I'm really good at this. Like, I'm the best at this right here. Well, now you have to go to there. That character development now is already ingrained in the world
Mhm.
and in the lore and in the system itself for players.
Yeah.
Did your family support you being an emoji spellcaster? Did
Mhm.
they try to discredit you? Did they try to force you to do fire magic? And maybe now you know a little bit of it that you shouldn't know, but because it was so forced onto you, the weave allowed you that safety
Mhm.
from this persecution. It's already so ingrained to the system that you put together with that one little thought.
Yeah, and there's so much more to flesh out, which is why we're doing the campaign for it, which will be in the future. But I mean, I don't know if it'll even be a thing when this airs, but it'll definitely be sometime in the future once some stuff settles. But like, I was like, I got the mechanics in place, I got the nations, but like, there's so much in this culture wise that I need to map out, and I don't want to do this by myself. So let's just run a game and build it as we go. Because like,
Oh yeah.
even if you all pick a different country, that gives you a different country, which can be a school of magic that school is there. There's going to be your race, which can be anything, and then there's going to be the school of magic your person actually knows, which is why they have to leave. So just that alone is tying you to like 3 or 4 different things that you get to help me write lore about. And if each of you do different areas, it's just we get to explore so much shit just within that game. It's gonna be fun. I think I'm more excited for the in between stream sessions of just like war writing with each other than I am for the actual sessions of the game.
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be beautiful. And that is another thing. I'm glad you said it. I don't know if it was intentional or not, and if it was, beautifully done. Um, if you are interested in writing a TTRPG, if you are interested in creating your own game mechanics, creating your own world lore, creating even if it's just a D&D homebrew item that you're
Mm-hmm.
super interested and you want to try it out, find the people you trust that are ready to critique but not
Mm-hmm.
criticize.
Exactly.
Find the people who are ready to look at it and go, "Hey, this was a great idea when it started, but it's turned into something else. How did it go from this to this? Help me bridge this gap." Instead of going, you said it was going to be this and now it's this. This is dumb, and give you nothing else.
Yeah. It's very
Find
easy to
people.
find friends who will either just be like, "Oh yeah, this is all great, 100%," or find people who be like, "No, this needs slower." It's easy. It's like finding people that can both give you positive and negative criticism in a constructive way. I mean, I gave it as soon as my shit was done. I gave it to you and Gus, and you guys were. I mean, you and Gus are my two most upfront friends to begin with. But you guys read through like, oh, this is really interesting, but like you could probably improve this, this, and this a little bit, and I tweaked it, and I think it's mechanically in a good spot now from where it started at.
Yeah, mechanically, everything, like I said, mechanically, your whole system that you've created, the whole game, even the lore itself, is complete. And I know
Mm-hmm.
that there's parts of it that you want to flesh out more, you want more information in to feel like it's more well rounded. As your friend, I'm telling you, it's good.
Yeah,
It's
I
great.
know.
You could frame this and put it out as it is. As a fellow game designer, as a fellow writer, as a peer, I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
I could definitely put the system out right now, which I'm going to do anyway because I do want to kind of make it more agnostic, as in like maybe in different settings. I just pull the base system out and maybe even like leave rules to build races and build stuff like that so that it can be for anything.
Hmm.
But for this world, I want to flesh out so much because I've
Yes.
seen like I'm not gonna get to Mercer's level of world building for the Exandria book because god damn. But like just
Says
being
who? Says who? First and foremost, says who?
fair. But I'm just saying like I would love to like just fully build this world. At least not even fully, because I want people to build upon whatever I come out with. But like get more of a fleshed out world overall before I release it, even if it's right now there's enough to probably get people started, I feel like.
Yeah. And even if you release it as just that, here's a here's a starter's guide
Mm-hmm.
to this game and world. Here is how the base mechanics of it work. The game is incomplete at this time, but you, as people who are interested in this game, people who want to try this game out, you can create your first character right now.
Mm-hmm.
You can have your idea of the world as it is right now, so that when the full version is released, you're ready to play because you already know how the core rules work. You already know how
Yeah.
to build a character. You already know this school over here doesn't fuck with this school over here, but you really want to go to this school and not this one. You can already have that. The people who are interested in the game and people who want to play the game can already have their characters ready for when the full version comes out. And by the time the full version comes out, people will already be excited. They'll be ready. They'll be looking forward to, oh, we know that this was something going on between the cryomancy, mages and the prophecy mages. We know that there was something going on here, so I made a character that's tied to both of them. And then when the full book comes out, it's, oh, cryomancy is
Mm-hmm.
actually causing the prophecy wizards, their visions to freeze. They're only
Yeah.
seeing 5 seconds at a time.
Yeah.
And now, oh, I gotta add that. I gotta add that in.
Yeah,
My visions aren't.
there's so many possible interactions in this world, not even just between like countries, because then each country has so many sub schools of magic within it. So like there
Yeah.
might be a lot of interfighting too. Like there's so much, which is why I'm not releasing it. There's so much lore that I feel like we can dive into just through building these characters and playing the story at the academy and
and
being
again
like just going from there. So
and again, as a peer, as a fellow game writer and game designer, I get it. I 100% get it. That's why none of my games have been released yet.
yes, I know.
We're
I'm working on
closing
like
in.
one or two games with you, so I get
Yeah.
it.
We're closing in on the release of the first three, including a trading card game,
Mhm.
um, by the end of this year, beginning of next year. And this has been something I've been working on and with you and other people in the community since 2022, 2023.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And it's they're just now, I feel, ready.
Hmm.
Like, enough has been fleshed out, enough has been put together, enough is available now for me to go, okay, here you go. Because I know that there's a part of me similar to what you're experiencing with your system. I want to put so much more into it, but at a certain point, I have to leave enough for the people who are going to be running these games, the people who are going to be playing these games, to create their own.
Hmm.
And I can always, after it's released, do an expansion, do
Yeah.
a second book, do an expedition, do a campaign setting or something, and explore this thing that I really wanted to flesh out, but I didn't do enough of it or feel I did enough of it. Now I can, and it's focalized and it's specific to this, and we can explore this together as a community, as gamers, as TTRPG enthusiasts. We all get to explore it together now once it's released. And that is where I had to come to that understanding of, we were all given the Forgotten Realms, we were all given Faerun,
Hmm.
90% of us never stayed in Faerun. Almost none of us
Yeah.
maintained a point of power or position on the Sword Coast. We all fucked off somewhere else. We all made our own thing. We
Yeah,
all did our own
I
thing.
can't do modules. I'm sorry, I can't. I take the mechanics and then I'm like, well, this is gonna be where we're actually set.
I might take some of these NPCs, but that's it.
I don't even think I
I'm
use
doing my own
backgrounds
thing.
most of the time when I'm in D&D. I'm like, no, what are you again? Okay, cool. So here's your background, actually. Here's what skills you can take.
I still use backgrounds. I still try to incorporate them to the best of my ability, but I also,
Well, they're very easy to make though too, because the feature is always very general. It's like, oh,
yeah,
if you're in this specific thing, you might get help from these type of people type situation. And then it's
yeah,
just always like you get two skills, a language, and a tool proficiency. So it's not really hard to throw one together
yeah.
either.
But I also like, I stepping away from TTRPG design into GMing. Um, for any of my home games or any of the other games that I run that aren't streamed, I will create a group message for
Mm-hmm.
all of the players and tell them, this is yours. I have no access to it. Create your stories, create your interlocking moments, create your connections here. And this is all for you. You let me know what you need me to know from your conversations here. And then I'd leave that group message. And I've done that for countless campaigns, countless one shots, things of that nature that has allowed the players in it to one, feel safe. Here is my idea. This is who my character is. This is what they're doing. And they could present it to their fellow teammates
Mm-hmm.
and go, I want to be connected to you guys, but this is my character. How can we be connected? And then they build their own connections through that conversation and then message me later and go, hey, all five of us were friends when we were kids. These two moved away 3 years later. This one still lives in the town. I come to visit and we haven't heard from this asshole in almost 8 years. Like,
No, that
okay,
makes.
cool. Thanks. Now I can go from there.
I mean, yeah. I mean, coming from a GM's perspective, I love to just weave backstory into my campaigns. Like, I always have like a very general plot idea, which is like, oh, I'm gonna run this campaign with this system, and like this is the general idea of what they need to accomplish by the end of it. Beyond the framework that I give them and that plot point, I'm like, okay, so what is your character's deal? Cool.
Yeah.
How can I map this into the story to still get your character to want to go from point A to point B? So yeah, I think that's definitely important, especially if they can kind of map out some stuff together. Especially if it's a campaign where they're gonna know each other beforehand, like letting them establish how that connection works and go from there is really good.
Yeah. And then back to game designing and things of that nature with that in mind, the system you've created, the system that we're working on together, already has that built into it now.
Mm-hmm.
Those conversations are so much easier to have now because it's already in the system.
Yeah,
It isn't a tool that a GM had to learn or be taught or come up with. It's already not even mechanically there, but it already exists. And having some of these session zero tools built into a game also help people get more invested into it and get more involved with it because now the players feel like they're contributing to the world and to the story and it's lightening the work off of the game master for those connections and for that world building and gives the game master a peek into, oh, this person wants to play more combat based things.
yeah,
That's why a lot of their input has been about war or combat or things of that nature. This person's more interested in political conversations and espionage because they talked about this and this. So now I can connect these things and make that a part of the story and build onto that. And we're seeing a lot more of that in a lot of systems like Powered by the Apocalypse, like Vampire the Masquerade and Hunter the Reckoning and World of Darkness, because they have such expansive lore. they have lended it into the core books to go, hey, the Ventru really don't fuck with the Nosferatu,
Hmm.
but they will coincide with one another if they find a mutual enemy or they find themselves in a point of understanding the framework of their clans. So now
Hmm.
you can have someone who's playing a Nosferatu and someone who's playing a Ventru vampire build on that commonality from the book
Hmm.
and play together.
No, yeah, that makes total sense. You gotta love when the rules build out enough. Not even like fully fleshed out, but there's enough there to go off of it and then flesh it out on your own. That's like the best.
Absolutely. Because it comes down to players' options and players' agency while still lending to the story itself.
That's always been my thing. Like, I want players to be able to build out whatever character they want to build out in a system.
Mhm.
Like, have full, like, maybe there'll be a starting point that you start at that's very similar to if someone else picked that same class. But then, like, everything going forward is, like, so mapped out just for you personally.
Yeah. Having that like diverse skill tree or that change in the way you cast your spells or you wield a sword or you protect your friends, creating your own
Hmm.
class out of the framework of what this is.
Yeah.
And it's open enough to create your own class out of this framework. You don't feel forced into that corner. You don't feel locked into the, well, I'm playing a rogue, so I guess I have to have a dagger and I need to have lock picks and I need to. No, no, no. I'm playing a rogue. I'm just really good at talking shit to where people don't want to look at me or acknowledge my existence anymore. That's the kind of rogue I play. And it works because the
No.
framework is just you are somebody who does not want to be acknowledged or seen. How do you do that? What is your way of accomplishing that goal? Maybe I wear different clothes one day compared to the next. Maybe I am a gender fluid person who refuses to use the same name every day or the same pronouns every day. And that's how I maintain my anonymity. What if it's, like I said, I just talk shit so much that people get tired of hearing me and don't want to pay attention to me anymore? Cool, you're not looking. I'm already out the door. I've already taken your wallet, I've already taken your watch and the really cool jacket that you left on the back of the chair. Accomplished the goal, did the
Yeah.
thing.
That's, yeah. I love all that, though. But I think it's about time to wrap up our first
Oh
lore dump and our
no.
first episode. I feel like this is just like our normal conversations,
This is
honestly.
absolutely
This
just a
is,
regular
I think
conversation
I
that we
asked you
have.
like two questions and then just kind of went from there, but that's about how I expected it to go. So perfect. But yeah, absolutely delight to have you as my first guest. I couldn't think of anyone else to ask to be my first guest when I thought of doing this again. So, with that,
Thank you.
why don't you tell all these lovely listeners where to find you, any projects that maybe come up in the future? I know this is a month ahead of time, but I know you have stuff definitely
Oh yeah.
coming out later on that you would want to talk about. So
Always,
please,
always.
please give us all that information.
Hello again, everyone. I have been your lighthouse keeper, lore writer, beacon onto all beacons, Arc or Arclight Court. You can find me all over the internet at Arclight Court. Uh, I am a Power Rangers TTRPG content creator, nostalgia core, game designer, and writer. Things to keep an eye out for. The quick starters of Magi, Veil of Mana, Gear Chimera, and Soul Wheel, the three TTRPGs that I've been working on, put into development over the course of the last 3 years. The quick starters are coming out, as well as we are in the process of getting the prototype decks for our trading card game, Curse Breakers. If you're a fan of Commander, if you're a fan of Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, any trading card game, specifically the Commander style of Magic the Gathering, I'm almost certain you will love Curse Breakers and will enjoy it.
Me looking at my
But
14 commander decks behind me.
But it's something you could definitely look forward to and check out. And again, you can find me all over the internet at Arclight Court. That's ARCLIGHTCOURT, all one word, and you'll find the lighthouse, and we will welcome you there.
Thanks for joining me tonight. And I think this was a very great first episode. Obviously, you can listen to this anywhere on YouTube, Spotify, and on Podbean, I believe, is the podcast platform as well. So, plenty of episodes to come. I already have, I think, all the first month like planned out. So, plenty of friends and guests to really get this going. And I'm really excited to kick this off the ground again. But with that, everyone have a good night, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.